Video is taking a look at the first of a few restrictive diets. This one being veganism. Decided to take a look at this first off because it's vegan new area at the moment. So for the month of January, there's plenty of people out there going vegan. As well as that, Game Changers, a popular vegan documentary, came out, I think it was this time last year. And that's when it became really popular off of Netflix. So I'm also going to take a look at that. And going to take a look at why restrictive diets work in general. What is a restrictive diet? First off, a restrictive diet is a type of diet where basically you're cutting out a certain food group from your diet. So whether that's a high fat, low carbohydrate diet where you're cutting out a lot of grains and carbohydrates from your diet, and that way, if you're looking at the vegan diet here, you're going to be cutting out all animal-based produce. So obviously, if you are cutting out a major food group from your diet, your calories will generally get restricted, and if weight loss is your ultimate goal, it's going to be a lot easier to achieve it that way. But as with anything, there are pros and cons that you have to consider with each restrictive diet. Obviously, restrictive diets wouldn't get traction if they didn't work for some people, and as you'll see with this diet and with many of the other restrictive diets that we are going to cover, there are benefits to the vegan diet. So as I was saying, this video here is going to take a look at the Game Changers documentary that came out on Netflix last year. For those of you that haven't seen it, it's a documentary basically that focuses on the impact of a vegan diet on athletic performance, cardiovascular health, and on body weight, amongst many other things. It was a really well produced documentary in fairness, but it is subject to quite a bit of bias, and it very much changes its takes on everything to suit its own narrative. I'm going to get into that in detail in a minute. First off, as I was saying, I'm going to take a look at what the documentary got right and where the vegan diet can succeed. So first off, as I was saying, it's important to look at the pros to a vegan diet. Why it does succeed. First off, first thing that comes to mind is the ethics behind it in terms of animal welfare and the environmental impact, and that is, if that's something that does mean a lot to you, it is really important consideration in choosing a vegan diet. If you're going to go into the health benefits, it has been shown to decrease your risk of developing cardiovascular disease, has been shown to reduce your LDL cholesterol or your bad cholesterol levels, which is going to help your blood profile in general. And these are all claims that the documentary makes, and it has been shown in a clinical setting to be the case. The documentary also claims that a vegan diet does help to reduce your overall inflammation and your oxidative stress levels, and that's 100% true. But an important thing to note with that is that individuals on a vegan diet are simply just consuming more fruits and vegetables, which have more antioxidants and phytochemicals, which can be achieved in an omnivorous diet if you are paying special attention to make sure that you do increase your fruit and vegetables. One claim that the documentary also makes is that a plant-based diet is going to increase your overall carbohydrate intake, and this has been shown to be the case in many cases, but it's not something you can't do on an omnivorous diet. It also notes that carbohydrates are the body's main energy source rather than protein, which is often considered to be the case, and that's 100% true. I've seen so many times before where athletes have presumed that because protein is really important in the muscle formation, growth, and protein synthesis process, that it's going to give you energy. It doesn't. Carbohydrates and glucose are the body's favorite sort of source of energy. You can get energy from fats as well. That's getting on to a whole other conversation, but carbohydrates are better than protein as an energy source. Before I take a look at the downsides and considerations to a vegan diet, I'm just going to take a small look at where I felt like this documentary fell down in some ways and what it did wrong. So first off, this documentary is completely full of anecdotal takes a look at various athletes that follow a plant-based diet and tries to use that as a reason to follow a plant-based diet yourself. So they take a look at like Carl Lewis. I think there was a US cyclist, her name just escapes me at the moment. There's Nate Diaz, there was a strongman competitor, and there was some boxer as well that they took a look at, and they noted like all the achievements of these people as if that was a reason to convert to a plant-based diet, despite the fact that you haven't considered, first off, that these athletes have unlimited access to dietitians and personal trainers and chefs on hand to make sure that they're getting enough nutrients, that they're getting the right types of protein in their diet. Also, it doesn't take a look at how the athletes performed before and after, and it doesn't compare it to an overall control in terms of the overall population, where if you look at athletes like, say, just for example, Usain Bolt, Cristiano Ronaldo, doesn't take a look at what type of diets these athletes follow. So if you are going down the anecdotal route, You can't just say because one diet worked for one person, it's going to work for everyone else. You're going to get yourself into a big rabbit hole there, and that's how people do become very passionate with these restrictive diets. Area where the documentary is very subject to bias is when they take a look at the increase in cancer risk with animal-based produce consumption versus plant-based produce. So they took a look at the likes of dairy on prostate cancer, and this is something that I was quite passionate about when I saw it again recently, because I actually had to do my library project this year in college on prostate cancer, and I'm sick to death. I've seen all these studies on dairy and prostate cancer, and I can tell you from what I did see, although a lot more research is definitely needed, there was a link drawn across many studies between increased dairy consumption, which is at a really high level per day. It was mainly calcium from dairy as well, and prostate cancer risk. But as well as that, dairy has been shown to decrease your colon cancer risk, which is something that the documentary does fail to acknowledge. They also took a look at different mutagens and carcinogens that can come about from the frying and cooking of animal proteins. So they took a look at, I think it was like HCAs and stuff like that. They tried these fancy words basically that the general public haven't heard before. They throw them up on a screen and they're like, these are really dangerous, they're going to increase your cancer risk. They throw up a few of them, and then they threw up one which was acrylamide, which is actually from plant-based proteins. It's most commonly seen in like fried potato products, and they tried to nearly put that up with everything else, just kind of lumped it in together. These are all carcinogens that come from food, but that's actually from plant-based food as well. So it is something to consider, and the effects of all these carcinogens that they have studied are very loose at the moment. They do need a lot more study and long-term studies to actually prove any real effect. They're very new concepts, so that's a really important thing to consider, that it hasn't necessarily been shown that there's a massive decrease in cancer risk with following a vegan diet. So taking a look at the downsides, I'm still going to be discussing the documentary a small bit here. First off, major thing with a plant-based diet is the difference in protein quality. So protein quality is the amino acid composition, so that's getting all the essential amino acids that your body can produce naturally. And secondly, it's the protein digestibility, so how much of the protein from that food source will your body actually be able to use and is readily available to the body. So protein quality is much lower in plant-based proteins. I think that's something that's quite well known at this stage. When the documentary tries to deal with that itself, it does kind of just sweep it under the carpet and just takes a look at the actual protein content. I remember they said something like a peanut butter sandwich and a cup of lentils have the same amount of protein as a 3-ounce steak and 3 eggs, but it does fail to acknowledge the different amino acid composition between them. So if you take a look in isolation at the peanut butter sandwich had as much leucine as 1 egg rather than the 3 eggs. Leucine is the amino acid that is really important in kickstarting protein synthesis, particularly in endurance athletes. And it is something that is low in quite a few plant-based protein sources. It is high enough in like sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, and I think it's high enough in lentils as well. But it was something that was just kind of swept under the carpet by the documentary, and they did fail to acknowledge it. They did say protein quality doesn't matter if you're getting all the amino acids in your diet, but it does fail to acknowledge that even though these amino acids are present in every plant-based protein, they're not present in high enough amounts to kickstart protein synthesis and optimize muscle protein growth. If you take the isolated example of the lentils are really low in methionine, and there's less methionine in a couple of lentils than there was in 1 egg, never mind 3 eggs, despite the 3 eggs having as much protein as the lentils. And that's a really important consideration, sure, that you have different sources of protein. In a lot of cases, your protein intake will have to be slightly higher than the guidelines for an omnivorous athlete, just in that the amino acid composition is going to be different. So you do need different protein sources so you can get that different amino acid complement to get you to the full amount of amino acids that you need each day. Put it into more simple terms, the protein that you are getting in that peanut butter sandwich, which is equal to, say it's 20 grams, just in isolation, to 3 eggs, which is also 20 grams, they're not the same quality of protein. The eggs are going to stand a lot better to you in terms of muscle growth and protein synthesis. That's where branched chain amino acids come into it. They're quite low in a few plant-based products, and it might be something to consider supplementing with if you can't get a full complement of proteins in your post-workout if you're a plant-based athlete. Whilst a plant-based diet is going to increase the availability of many vitamins and minerals, just through the abundance of fruit and veg that you're going to be consuming. There are a few that do kind of fall short, particularly iron, calcium, zinc, iodine, and then vitamin B12 is a really important consideration as well. First off with iron, iron is present in fruit and veg. The majority of iron people do consume in their diets is from fruit and veg, but quality of iron again isn't the same as quality of iron from meat. So in meat you're getting heme iron and you're getting non-heme iron from plants. Non-heme iron isn't absorbed as well, so you're going to need a lot more of it to meet your body's needs. Consider taking an iron supplement, particularly if you're a female endurance athlete that's following a vegetarian style diet. Iron stores have been shown to be quite lower in female vegetarian athletes compared to omnivorous athletes. As well as that, there's going to be phytates in plant-based products that are also going to inhibit iron absorption. Same goes for zinc. Phytates in grains are going to inhibit zinc absorption, so it is important to consider you might need to supplement with those too. Same goes for calcium. Calcium is available in like a lot of your greens like kale, spinach, but oxalic acid is going to inhibit your calcium absorption from those, so it's another important thing to consider for your bone health. Again, if you are following a plant-based diet, I would still incorporating dairy into your diet if possible. If it is purely for ethical reasons, that's fair enough, but do consider taking a calcium supplement because it is something to watch out for, particularly for an athlete, because it's going to be really, really important for your bone health. From a few studies I was reading yesterday as well, it's important to consider some smaller proteins and amino acids in your body that you might not be getting as high amounts in a vegetarian or vegan diet, most notably creatine, carnitine, and beta-alanine. These three are going to be really important in athletic performance. I'm going to get into more detail in these over the next few weeks on my supplement series, so I encourage you to check that out. So as I said earlier, your total LDL cholesterol levels are going to tend to be lower if you're following a plant-based diet. However, it's important to note that omega-3, which promotes HDL or good cholesterol levels in your blood, is much lower in a plant-based diet, and the omega-3 source isn't the same quality. Again, you're looking at alpha-linoleic acid in plant-based diets and EPA and DHA fatty acids in an omnivorous diet when you're consuming fish. So the ALA fatty acids aren't actually used by your body. They're converted to EHA or EPA and DHA fatty acids, which are actually used by your body to reduce inflammation and increase this HDL cholesterol levels. It has been shown in many studies that those following a plant-based diet generally tend to have lower levels of EPA and DHA than those following an omnivorous diet. So that's an important thing to consider. You might want to supplement with an algae-based omega-3 supplement if you are following a plant-based diet, and it's going to be, omega-3 is really important for your overall health, and I would encourage you to consume fish if you can. If you are 100% set on following a vegan diet for ethical reasons, by all means do, but fish is something that's really important and I wouldn't leave it out of your diet just for health reasons. So vitamin B12 is a really important vitamin to consider if you are following a plant-based diet. It isn't available in a plant-based diet in any source. It's actually only available in beef style products because it's produced in the microbiome of cows. But it is an essential vitamin. It is needed for multiple neurological functions. Vitamin B12 deficiency can lead to a type of anemia called hemocritic anemia, where your blood cells basically shrink and you're going to be really tired, and that's just not great for athletic performance or normal performance or general health. But this is something that the Game Changers documentary tackles really poorly. They kind of have the argument that we should cut out the middleman in terms of animals and just get our protein directly from plants and get our vitamins directly from plants, and then they decide to say, oh, I don't understand why vitamin B12 isn't naturally present in plants, so you might just supplement that. Even though they do make claims that your body is designed to only consume plant-based products because our intestines are longer than in many carnivorous animals, and therefore we don't actually need any animal-based products. And despite the fact that all these vitamins are present in plant-based products, vitamin B12 isn't, and they just kind of dance over that and say B12 isn't actually naturally found in cows anyway, it's from bacteria in cows, so therefore we should just supplement it. And because chickens take vitamin B12 supplements, that means that that's the only way we can get it is from supplement. But obviously these bacteria are part of the cows, so that is important to note, and that is something the documentary is quite misleading with. but it is really, really important to supplement with B12 if you are following a vegan diet. Bit of a change through time there. Hope you enjoyed that lovely transition there. Managed to switch hats and all. Was just editing the video there, and for whatever reason, the whole conclusion, the audio just got scrapped. I did notice, sorry, it got a bit shaky throughout the video, so sorry about that. But hope you enjoyed. A few takeaways just from the video is, if you are considering following a plant-based diet, there are obvious benefits for your cardiovascular health and through increasing carbohydrates and increasing your overall antioxidant and vitamin and mineral intakes. But there are a few considerations in terms of your iron intake, the different quality of proteins that you're going to be getting, calcium intake, iodine intake, and vitamin B12 is definitely something you should supplement. Also look at omega-3 and make sure you're getting the right types of omega-3, and consider taking an omega-3 supplement if you are following a strictly vegan diet. If you're just considering going plant-based in general, do consider still consuming dairy and still consider consuming fish even. If I was giving you my own take on it, like, a plant-based diet can work if that's what you want to do, if that's going to make you consume more fruit and veg. If you're doing it for ethical reasons, by all means do. There's nothing wrong with it if you can follow it really strictly and make sure you're getting enough protein to actually help your own recovery. But if you're considering changing from an omnivorous diet just for purely health reasons, I would say there's nothing wrong with what you're doing at the moment, but definitely watch out for the fruit and veg intake. Hope you enjoyed the video anyway. Let me know if you like this style of video, anything you'd like to change, anything I can improve on. Every bit of feedback, whether good or bad, is just going to help the channel or the Instagram page just keep improving. So do let me know, and I appreciate the support. Don't forget to like and share if you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you again.